This fictional story deals with themes of intimate partner violence, a missing person investigation, and death. It's non-graphic, but viewer discretion is advised. A 20-year-old woman goes missing after a late-night argument. Her phone goes silent, her social media stops, and a small town starts whispering. The search leads detectives back to one place again and again, her boyfriend's property. What follows is a steady, methodical investigation. Interviews, timelines, doorbell cams, and a patch of ground that doesn't look quite right. Before we begin, if you like storytelling that's suspenseful but non-graphic, please like this video, subscribe, and drop a comment with where you're watching from. It helps the channel a ton. This is fictional, a dramatized story inspired by news coverage, but told with respect and care. The last text Cora Lane ever sent said, "I'm home. Don't start." It buzzed across a screen at 12:41 a.m. on a Tuesday and hovered there, blue and blunt, the way late-night messages do. No emojis, no softness, just the kind of tired edge two people get when a relationship has frayed to threads. Cora was 20, too old to be called a kid, too young to have learned how to walk away when love turns into a problem you keep trying to solve. She worked mornings at a hardware store, nights at a diner, and kept a spiral notebook where she doodled tattoo ideas and baby names she swore weren't serious. Friends said she was the glue of their group chat, the one who remembered birthdays and sent dumb stickers at 3 a.m. to make people laugh. By noon the next day, her phone was off. Her sister Tessa felt the absence like a physical ache. The two called each other for tiny things. Which detergent is the good one again? Does garlic go bad? You up? And that daily stream just stopped. When Cora didn't respond to an "Are you alive?" text, Tessa tried humor. When humor failed, she tried calm. By evening, calm ran out. At 8:07 p.m., Tessa filed a missing person report. The officer at the front desk did what they always do, took notes, asked for a recent photo, and said the part that always sounds colder than it's meant to be. Sometimes adults take space. Tessa nodded, but she looked past him, through glass, at a wall of wanted posters and a corkboard full of flyers, cats, community yard sales, a blood drive. She pressed her palms flat to the counter and said, "This isn't like her." Detective Mara Hollis believed that. She'd been at this long enough to know that patterns tell on us when we're not looking. Cora's pattern: constant phone use, active socials, predictable work shifts, always 5 minutes early. In Leo County, a lot of missing adults come home by day 2. When they don't, Hollis starts her clock. Day 1. Build the timeline. The last people to see Cora were her neighbors, Kendra and Miles, a couple who shared a thin fence and a thinner patience for noise. They heard voices in the small hours, Cora's, tight and clipped, a man's, lower, traveling. Couldn't make out words, Miles said, but it wasn't friendly. He mimed a hand cutting the air, sharp. The man was Evan Reed, 23, worked construction seasonally, cut lawns when the weather turned, posted long captions about loyalty and how hard it was to be misunderstood. He and Cora had been on again / off again for almost 2 years. They'd had loud months and quiet ones, breakups and half apologies, and a handful of "we're working on it" captions that got more likes than the rest. Hollis asked to see him. Evan came into the station in a clean t-shirt and the wrong kind of confidence. He leaned back in the chair, legs open, hands sunk into pockets, like he was here to help, like he could help by announcing it. "We talked Monday," he said. "You know how it is. Stuff builds up, then it blows over. When did you last see her?" "Night," he said. "Late. We argued on the porch. She went inside. I left. What time did you leave, Evan?" He smiled small. "After midnight. Before 1. Probably." "Phone?" Hollis asked. "What about it?" "We'll need to look at it." The smile thinned. He put the phone on the table like it weighed more than it should. Hollis slid it across to Tech, who had been standing just outside the door like a person you keep in your pocket for moments like this. With consent, you can move fast. They did. Cora's phone was a different story. Pinged last at 12:43 a.m. near the small triangle where Route 7 meets the 2-lane that passes Reed's rental. After that, a dead quiet that made the hair on Hollis's arm stand up every time she looked at the map. Day 2. Widen the circle. Searches start small. Volunteers with clipboards, a droning drone, boots scuffing ditches. They looked behind the diner where Cora clocked out early that Monday. They looked behind the hardware store, through pallets and the sharp smell of fertilizer, just to prove to themselves they were trying. The internet did what it does, spun and amplified. Local Facebook groups traded theories. Somebody posted a doorbell cam clip of Cora walking up her steps at 12:39, keys in hand. In the background, a sedan idled at the curb. The clip looped, pixelated, the way truth can when too many fingers pinch and zoom. By afternoon, a reporter knocked on Tessa's door. "We just want to help," she said, "and then ask the kind of questions you can't answer without breaking something in yourself." Tessa stayed behind the screen. "She's 20, she said into the mesh. She was excited about next month. She bought a plant she can't keep alive. I'm not interested in stories. I want her found." The reporter looked down, embarrassed. "We'll share the flyer." Day 3, the property. By the third day, the case had a hum to it, the background kind. Hollis could hear it when she drove past the Reed rental, a 2-story that looked like it never decided whether it was a farmhouse or just pretending. There was a shed that had been a garage once, a line of pines too straight to be natural, dividing the lot from the neighbor's horses. Hollis had been circling the same thought since day 1. People don't disappear into thin air. They get moved. Cars matter. Dirt matters. Habits matter. If you follow habit long enough, you find where it tears. Evan's car was a faded blue sedan with a bumper held on by zip ties. Tech checked the interior with a light. Nothing obvious. The trunk, too, cleaner than it should be. "He washes," Tech said, half compliment, half warning. They asked permission to look around the property. Evan spread his hands. "You think she's here?" It came out half laugh, half dare. "We want to be thorough," Hollis said. "Yeah, okay, be thorough." They walked the yard in a slow grid. Tech carried a handheld that looks like a toy until it chirps. They checked the shed. It smelled like oil and cut grass. Rakes lined the wall, teeth down, handle ends neat. Someone had pressure washed the floor recently. Water had pushed dust into thin moons along the baseboard. Maybe he liked things clean. Maybe he'd seen a show once about how clean looks like calm. Detectives talked to each other in shorthand. Hollis tipped her head toward the back corner of the lot, the spot where the grass had gone from junk to tidy. The kind of sudden improvement that makes you ask, why now? If you've done enough of these, your senses tune to tiny wrongness. The corner's sod was newer, colour off by a shade. The earth looked not exactly raised, not exactly settled, just different. The handheld chirped once, and then again, softer. That was enough for Hollis to stop walking and breathe in through her nose. The air smelled like late summer cuttings and something else, the kind of mineral sweetness that attaches to your throat and won't leave. She didn't say, I think. She said, tape it off. They didn't dig right away. You don't rush ground. You photograph. You place flags. You let the daylight shift and take the same shots again, because shadows tell stories too. The property turned quiet in that specific way it does when professionals arrive. Neighbors gathered at their own fences and pretended they weren't watching. Evan asked for a smoke. Nobody had one. He put his hands on top of his head and watched the yellow tape flutter, and his face did a series of small calibrations that Hollis had seen before. Irritation, calculation, a pre-built outrage ready to wear if you need it. When the first shovel lifted and the earth changed colour, a darker shade, soil that hadn't seen air in a little while. Hollis looked down and said to no one in particular, slow. What happened next is the part you handle with care. Authorities recovered human remains in a small area of disturbed earth at the rear of the property. The recovery was respectful, methodical, and documented. There's nothing to be gained by describing what doesn't need describing. What matters is this. The recovery was consistent with a young adult female, and there were items nearby that, when photographed and bagged, looked like things Cora's sister could recognize without being told. They paused the work at sunset and returned at first light. By mid-morning, the coroner's van had come and gone. A heavy silence settled where the tape quivered. Someone across the street started crying and didn't try to stop. Hollis didn't look at Evan when they cuffed him. She looked at the ground, the way the turf showed the faint outline of a square, the way the water from the pressure washer had carved little rivulets that ran to the drain and took fine silt with it. People think the big things give them away. It's usually the small ones. Aftermath. Words you don't practice. You don't rehearse telling a sister. You just do it. Inside Tessa's living room, the TV was on but muted, an old sitcom rerun playing to an empty couch. The coffee table had 4 different mugs, all with a different kind of hope in them. Tea, coffee gone cold, a sports drink someone handed her at the vigil and she couldn't throw away. Hollis Saturday. We recovered remains from a property on East Hollow Road, she said carefully. There are indicators consistent with Cora. Tessa closed her eyes. She folded her hands into fists and then let them go like she remembered she shouldn't be clenching for anyone. Is it her? We'll wait for confirmation, Hollis said. But I wanted you to hear it from me. Silence moved through the room in slow waves. Tessa nodded without opening her eyes. Thank you, she whispered, and then stronger. Thank you for not telling me in the driveway." Later, outside, reporters leaned toward the mic stand like sunflowers. The DA spoke in controlled phrases, based on the current state of the evidence, consistent with charges forthcoming. The words were careful because they had to be. Behind the cameras, neighbors held each other and stared at their shoes. On social media, the flyer changed from missing to in memory in an hour. People left comments like they were laying flowers. "I didn't know you, but I'm crying. Rest now, girl. We failed you." Tessa didn't read them that night. She put her phone face down and climbed into Cora's bed and hugged the pillow so hard it squeaked. The why that doesn't matter. At the arraignment, Evan kept his chin up, like he'd learned posture from television. The courtroom was small. The wood smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. When the charge was read, he blinked, slow. He pleaded not guilty. That's a sentence that lands differently in a room where people love the person who can't stand up to say otherwise. His attorney used words like complex relationship and ongoing issues and high emotion, phrases that try to stretch a moment into fog. People listen because the law asks you to, but in the back row, a woman pressed her hands together like prayer and stared at the floor. Evidence builds itself whether anyone is ready for it or not. Cell pings marching across a map, a doorbell camera that catches a shadow at the wrong time, receipts for supplies you buy when you are trying to fix what can't be fixed. There were messages too, old, clipped exchanges where apologies' bones showed through. "We'll do better. Promise. Don't start." In the end, the story the evidence told wasn't cinematic. It was practical. That's what makes it hurt. Most violence isn't a movie. It's a bad choice stacked on top of a worse one until gravity does the rest. What people remember. Everyone builds a softer story to hold on to. Tessa remembered little things that would still be true, no matter what a judge decided. The way Cora laughed at her own jokes, how she kept losing lighters but never gave up on candles. The way she ate toast over the sink so she wouldn't have to sweep. Friends swapped memories like trading cards. The diner taped a photo by the register and cut a pie and gave it away one slice at a time to people who needed something sweet they didn't have to pay for. At the vigil, someone said, "We will not reduce her to what happened at the end." People murmured, "Amen," without meaning it religiously. A wind came through and lifted the edges of the flyers and made them sound like quiet applause. Detective Hollis drove past the Reed rental one more time a week later. The tape was gone. The grass was flatter now, less visibly new. People had come and taken their shots. Then they'd gone back to their lives. That's how it works. A place absorbs a story it didn't ask for and learns to stand anyway. Back at her desk, Hollis wrote her report the way she always did. Clear, chronological, without adjectives. She closed the folder and rested her hand on it like a benediction. Somewhere in the building, a phone rang. Somewhere else, another folder opened. How it ends and doesn't. Trials take months. Grief takes longer. There will be motions and continuances, headlines and then fewer headlines. There will be days where Tessa resents every ordinary thing. Morning light, the smell of rain, the way strangers laugh in grocery aisles like they didn't get the memo that the world is different now. But there will also be the opposite. A neighbor who shovels her walk without being asked. A box on the porch with gift cards and hand cream, and a note that says no need to reply. A kid at the diner who asks for the Cora special without realizing he's giving her name a job to do. People will say time heals. Hollis doesn't believe that. Time is a container, not a cure. What helps is how we hold each other while the clock keeps moving. At the end of all this, a judge will read a sentence out loud. Some part of the world will correct itself on paper. The rest will be messier. That's the truth we live with. The same one we keep telling stories about. Not because we love the darkness, but because we're trying to light around it. If you or someone you know is experiencing intimate partner violence, please reach out to local resources in your area for confidential support. Every country and community has different services. A quick search for Domestic Violence Help plus your city can connect you to hotlines, shelters, and advocates. Question for you. Where do you draw the line between give them time to cool off and call for help now? What signs would you want friends or neighbors to act on immediately? If this story resonated, please like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. It helps more than you know.
Case closed. Archived in the synthetic vault. If you dare to return, the next file awaits. truecrime.exe. The line between fiction and fear.